The GROOMS Story by Alfred H. Miles. 10 mile in 20 minutes. E done it, sir, that's true. The big bay 'orse in the further stall, the one wot's next to you. I've seen some better 'orses, I've seldom seen a wuss, but E olds the bloomin' record, and that's good enough for us. We knew as it was in E's thoroughbred 3-part, we bought for to race but we found E 'ad no eart. For E was sad and thoughtful, and amazin' dignified, it seemed a kind o' liberty to drive or to ride. For E never seemed a thinkin' of what E 'ad to do, but his thoughts was set on igher things, admirin' of the view. E looked a puffect picter, and a picter E would stay, E wouldn't even switch his tail to drive the flies away. And yet we knew 'twas in we knew as E could fly, but what we couldn't get at was 'ow to make try. We'd almost turned the job up until at last one day, we got the last yard out of him in a most amazin' way. It was all along O Master, which Master, as the name of a reglar true blue sportsman, and always acts the same. But we all as weaker moments, which Master, E 'ad one, and E went and bought a motor car when motor cars begun. I seated in the stable yard. It fairly turned me sick, a greasy, wheezy engine as can neither buck nor kick. You've a screw to drive it for'ard and a screw to make it stop, for it was foaled in a smithy stove and bred in a blacksmith's shop. It didn't want no stable, it didn't ask no groom, it didn't need no nothin' but a bit standin' room. Just fill it up with paraffin and it would go all day, which the same should be agin the law if I could ave my way. Well, Master took 'is motor car and moted air in there, a frighten in the 'orses and a poison in the air. E wore a bloomin' yacht and cap, but lore, what did he know except that if you turn a screw the thing would stop or go? And then one day it wouldn't go. E screwed and screwed again, but something jammed, and there E stuck in the mud of a country lane. It 'urt his pride most cruel, but what was E to do? So at last he bade me fetch a 'orse to pull the motor through. This was the 'orse we fetched, and when we reached the car, we braced tight and proper to the middle of the bar, and buckled up his traces and lashed them to each side, while E eld his eed so audily, and looked most dignified. Not bad-tempered, mind you, but kind of pained and vexed, and E seemed to say, well, bly me, what will they ask me next? I've put up with some liberties, but this caps all by far to be assistant engine to a crocky motor car. Well, master, E was in the car, fiddlin' with the gear, and the 'orse was meditatin', and I was standin' near, when master E touched somethin'. What it was we'll never know, but it sort o' spurred the boiler up and made the engine go. Old gal, says master, and gently then, says I, but an engine want E'd coaxin', and it ain't no use to try. So first E pulled a lever, and then E turned a screw, but the thing kept crawlin' for'ard spite of all that E could do. And first it went quite slowly, and the 'orse went also slow, but E 'ad to buck up faster when the wheels began to go. For the car kept crowdin' on and button, along, and in less than a minute, sir, that 'orse was goin' strong. At first E walked quite dignified, and then E had to trot, and then E tried to canter when the pace became too ot. E looked is very odious, as if E didn't mind, and all the time the motor car was pushin', bend. Now master lost is E'd when E found E couldn't stop, and E pulled a valve or somethin' and somethin' else went pop. And somethin' else went fizzywig, and in a flash or less that blessed car was goin' like a limited express. Master eld the steerin' gear, and kept the road all right, and away they whizzed and clattered. My aunt, it was a sight. E seemed the finest draft 'orses ever lived by far, for all the country juggins thought 'twas what pulled the car. E was stretchin' like a greyhound. E was goin' all E knew, but it bumped and shoved band for all that E could do. It buted and boosted and spanked on E'd, till E broke the 10-mile record, same as I already said. 10 mile in 20 minutes. E done it, sir, that's true. The only time we ever found what that 'orse could do. Some say it wasn't 'ardly fair, and the papers made a fuss, but E broke the 10-mile record, and that's good enough for us. You see that 'orse's tail, sir? You don't, no more do we, which really ain't surprisin', for E has no tail to see. That engine wore it off before master made it stop, and all the road was littered like a bloomin' barber's shop. And master, well, it cured E altered from that day, and come back to his 'orses in the good old-fashioned way. And if you wants to get the sack, the quickest way by far is to int as 'ow you think E ought to keep a motor car.